Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for the GMAT. We have been solving GMAT math problems out of this book here, GMAT Review, the official guide, the 13th edition. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problem that we are about to solve is the one that you will find on page number 277, and today is our lesson number 44. Lesson number 44, please turn to page 277, the very last problem on that page. The very last problem on that page, that is problem number 34. Problem number 34, we are told that we have a total of 900 students. Make sure you read the problem to yourself. Apparently, they have, I'm going to read it to you. It says a certain high school with a total enrollment of 900 students, a certain high school with a total enrollment of 900 students had a science fair for 3 days. So they had a fair for 3 days. A 3-day fair at the school. Question simply is, how many of these 900 people, how many of these 900 students attended the fair all 3 days? That is the question. And as always, it's very simple, it's a very straightforward question. Questions are always simple and straightforward. It is the answers that are prickly. Let's look at first step and see what they tell us. Of the students enrolled in the school, 30% attended the science fair on 2 or more days. Alright. So in the first statement they tell us that 30% attended 2 or more days. So we have 900 students altogether. We have a 3-day fair going on. 1, 2, 3, these are day 1, 2 and 3. And we are told that 30% of them attended 2 or more days. So 2 or more is this one, and 30% of them attended that. 30% of 900. 30% of 900. We know 10% of 900, of course, is 90. You just have to drop a 0. You just knock out a 0. 10% of 90 is 900. Therefore, 30% is going to be 3 times the amount. 90 times 3 is 270. So all we know from the first statement, that 270 students attended at least 2 days or all 3 days. 270 students out of 900 went to the fair 2 days or all 3 days. That's all we know. But the question here is, how many of them went to the fair all 3 days? We don't have enough information for that. We don't have. 1 by itself is not enough. 1 by itself is not enough. So that's not going to work. A, D, B, C, E. Since statement number 1 by itself is not enough, answer cannot be A or D. It's got to be either B, C, or E. Let's look at second statement. So this came from statement number 1. In the second statement, they tell us that 10% of those who attended the fair at least 1 day attended all 3 days. 10% of those who attended the fair at least 1 day attended all 3 days. In a question like this, as you can probably gather here, this is not your typical algebra question, this is not your typical percentage question, this is not your typical math question where the typical algebra or math question, percentage question, they're all mechanical. You just have to do it out. As long as you follow the steps through like a robot, you'll find. There are well-defined steps, and you just have to follow them, and you will get where you want to go. Here, you have to slow down, because this is all about logical thinking. Whether or not you realize here, whether or not you have realized at this point, they have introduced a complication. It's all in the wording. Pay attention to the wording. You must pay attention to the wording. We must pay attention to the wording. Yes, I know I have a habit of writing down everything. Now, they have introduced, unbeknownst to you, they have introduced, or I should say possibly unbeknownst to you, perhaps you are cognizant of it. Now they have introduced the possibility of some people having not attended the fair at all. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why they have why is that the case? What is it in the wording that introduces that possibility? It says 10% of those who attended, right here, 10% of those who attended the fair at least one day. Voila! 1% of those who attended the fair at least one day. That suggests to us that there is a possibility that there might be some people, there might be some students out of 900 who did not bother to go to the fair at all. So we have to consider that. Let's redo our work. I need to erase this thing. I want to erase this thing so that I have the room and so forth. Just look at it here. As you can see, I'm going at a very leisurely pace. We're not in a hurry. And eventually I'm going to have to erase all of this part that I wrote down just now. So here now we have 900 people, and there are 4 possibilities now. There is a 0 possibility, the number of people who did not go to fair at all, who went to the fair 0 days, the number of people who went to the fair only 1 day, the number of people who went to the fair only 2 days, and number of people who went to the fair all 3 days. And what they have told us so far, is that 10% of those who attended the fair at least one day attended all 3 days. 10% of them. So let's call X. Let's introduce the X. Let's use the letter X. I need the room. I'm going to erase it. I don't want to stand here and just solve the problem just for solving it, because I want to make sure that we understand it. So now let's introduce this letter. Let X be the people who attended the fair 1 or 2, 1 or 2 or all 3 days. 1 or 2 or all 3 days. In other words, I'm calling this X number of students. That's what that is. In the second step, it says 10% of all of those students who attended the fair at least one day. Those are the people that I'm describing as the people who attended at least one day. Let X be the people, I should say the number of people, who attended the fair 1 or 2 or 3 days. If that were the case, then we are told that 10% of them, 0.01x, out of those x, 0.01x attended all 3 days. One more time, 10% of those people who attended the fair at least one day, 10% of what? 10% of x attended the fair all 3 days. 10% of those people who attended the fair at least one day, which is same as saying 10% of people who attended the fair either one day or 2 days or all 3 days attended the fair all 3 days, which means remaining 90% attended either one day or 2 days. Okay? Does that tell us, does that help us in figuring it out how many people attended all 3 days? The answer is no. 2 by itself is not enough. The question is, the $1,000,000 question is, can you tell right away what is the missing part? What is the missing part? What is the missing puzzle? What is the missing piece in the puzzle that is preventing us from solving this puzzle? The missing piece in the puzzle is this guy, this damn thing. Let's call it N. Let's call it N. N for the number of people, who never went to the fair. N for number of people who never bothered to go. They did not go at all. Now, if somehow we can figure out, if somebody were to tell us, for example, let's listen, okay? For example, if somebody were to tell us that 100 people out of 900 never went to the fair at all, then we would know that 800 people went to the fair at least one day. We will know the X. Once we know the X, we can figure out the 0.1x. It's a very simple process. It's a two-step process. We have to know this damn thing. Since nowhere in the second statement they make any mention of how many people did not go to fair at all, that is your missing part. That is your missing part, which is why the second statement by itself is of no good. Second statement by itself is of no good. We were at AAD, BCE, and the first statement we found out was no good, which is why we have crossed out A and D. Now we find out the second statement is no good, which means answer cannot be B either. Answer is got to be either C or E. Let's put them together. Let's put 1 and 2 together. Let's put 1 and 2 together. Can you tell immediately what's going to happen? Are you able to tell immediately what's going to happen? You should be able to tell immediately what's going to happen. What is going to happen is that what is causing us what is preventing us from solving this puzzle, what is preventing us from being able to answer the question, how many people attended the fair all 3 days, is this unknown. How many people did not go to fair at all? And statement 1, if you recall, made no mention of it. Statement 1, what is missing here is this part. So putting 1 and 2 together is not going to go anywhere. Putting 1 and 2 together is not going to help. Put 1 and 2 together, but since statement 1 never intimated the possibility of people not having gone to fair at all, putting statement 1 together with statement 2 is not going to do any good, because statement 1 never made any mention of it. It never intimated the fact, it never suggested it, it never implied, it never gave us any hint that there might be a possibility that some people might not have gone to the fair at all. It never mentioned anything. All it said, statement 1, all it said is that 30% of people attended the fair 2 or more days. It never even suggested, it never even implied, it never even intimated the fact that there is a possibility that some people may not have gone to fair at all. It made no mention of it. So we already know second statement makes no mention of it, which is why we are stuck, which is why B was not the answer. Second statement does not help us find this N. Putting the first statement together with the second statement is not going to do any good, because first statement we know never mentioned anything at all about people not having gone to fair at all. Therefore, putting together also does not get us anywhere. Unfortunately, alas, the answer is A. Answer is A. Sorry, answer is E. Answer is E. The whole thing just stinks to high heaven. It doesn't do any good. It's not going to get us anywhere. Alright? Sorry to get you so excited and about the anticlimax. Bye now.